It is Severe Weather Awareness Week in South Dakota. We're continuing to talk here about different severe weather subjects. And now we're going to talk about flooding. And just like severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, we have watches, warnings, but there's different types of those watches and warnings to talk about.
And it's interesting so far this season, right? We're still dealing with a lot of drought conditions, unfortunately, but we know the flooding that happens around our area, whether it's due to snow melt from our friends to the north or just a lot of snow in our area too. So let's go over the different types of flood terminology between flood watch, flood warning. These are pretty basic. A flood watch just simply means conditions are favorable for flooding, and flood warning means a flood is imminent or is already occurring. But we get these quite a bit too, those flash flood warnings, and we see those quite a bit, which is a very scary thing because it does not take much water to not only cause damage, but obviously sweep you off your feet or sweep your car off the road.
Yeah, it really doesn't it doesn't really need a lot of running water. That rushing water of just a couple of inches, believe it or not, that can completely take your car off of the roadways. And over the past couple of years, we have had issues with flooding. What was that? Just a couple of summers ago when we had multiple flood warnings, flash flood warnings. This is a very serious situation, especially when you get into that flash flood warning category.
Yeah, one thing that's not on the screen, there's also now a new flash flood emergency category. That's also another tag that the Storm Prediction Center and National Weather Service offices use. But one thing that you can always implement when we're in a flood-prone area, turn around, don't drown. I mean, that's just one thing to, just exactly. You don't want to be outside when heavy rainfall is coming down. Flooding can happen quickly, so make sure you are being vigilant on those roadways if you do find yourself outside.
Yeah, water can be a very powerful thing, especially when it's rushing.
And there's a little bit of a difference between a flood warning and a flash flood warning. And in some instances, a flood warning, a lot of times will just apply to the rise of rivers and streams, and you could have flooding in those areas. But a flash flood warning, that can happen anywhere, just from an intense thunderstorm with heavy rain that could cause that immediate flooding going on. So that's a little bit of a difference between a flood warning and a flash flood warning.
It can happen in a flash.
Exactly.
And we talked about this too during our tornado topic is really just the preparedness factor. Are you storm ready? And these are some of the questions you have to ask yourself. Will my home provide a good location to take shelter? Otherwise you need to look at other places. Is there a neighbor, a family member, somewhere else we can go? A storm shelter, that's always good to identify if you're unable to. But otherwise, if you have all those factors answered, then that is a good thing and you're ready.
Yeah, this is kind of like with a tornado watch when it comes out. If you don't have a basement and you know somebody who does, ask them if you can. Hey, can I come visit during this chance
Absolutely.
for tornadoes and things like that. So that's a good plan to have, is to know where you want to go, just like any other severe weather event.
One thing to add on to that, though, obviously when floods happen, you don't want to be in your basement. That is one thing you do not want to be in, because obviously the water will be probably seeping in the basement first. If you are on a one-story home, probably the first floor, but obviously you want to be as high as you possibly can in any household in those situations.
Well, we didn't have much snow this winter, at least not as much as normal winter, so that we don't have that flooding from snow melt that we normally get, especially like in northeastern South Dakota. So that's in the past. Let's look ahead now to what we can expect. This is the latest summer outlook, which we determine as the months of June, July, August. This is from Climate Prediction Center, their latest outlook.
And it's favoring temperatures being above normal across the area. And as we're kind of focusing on flooding, interesting to see whether we're going to be looking at below normal or rather right around normal in the shade of gray, but in the southern parts of the area, leaning toward being a little bit below normal.
Not great news, I guess, for the agricultural industry, but good news as far as the flooding potential is concerned. So that's the subject for today. And anytime you might miss one of these segments, you can go to our website, dakotanewsnow.com.
Hi, I'm Paul the Handyman, serving the greater Sioux Falls area. When severe weather hits, you better call Paul. I'm Paul the Handyman for Super Duper Results.